March of 2023. The U.S. doomsday plane, the Boeing E-6 Mercury, is spotted in Europe. Around this time, pro-Ukrainian hackers target Russian media with a cyber attack in the form of a nuclear attack prank, tricking millions of Russians into thinking that a nuclear attack was imminent. Around this time, more advanced S-400 air defense systems are deployed in Moscow. The leader of the Wagner Group says, prepare for World War III. Romania begins moving air defense to Moldova, and Poland moves HIMARS systems to the Kaliningrad border. Poland begins barricading the borders with Belarus, and Russia takes down a USA drone for the first time in the Black Sea. Throughout this period of time, there are record military exercises happening across Europe and in France. Later that month, the International Criminal Court issues an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin, as many U.S. political officials call for regime change in Russia. Putin then decides to place tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus. This prompts the United States to set out to sea numerous early warning detection systems in the Pacific. April of 2023. Due to the suspension of the New START Treaty, neither Russia nor the United States is obligated to share nuclear information. Around this time, the UK committed to shipping depleted uranium rounds to Ukraine. Russia deems this a nuclear threat. More diplomats are expelled from Russia and Baltic states. Russia officially deploys the Prometheus S-500 anti-satellite system. Most recently, government leaks implicate the United States and NATO in the training, arming, planning, and coordination of offensive maneuvers within Ukraine against the Russians. For some, this confirms the Russian accusation that they are not only at war with Ukraine, but all of NATO. On April 12th, Killnet, a pro-Russian hacker group, claimed responsibility for a series of cyber attacks that they claim paralyzed 40% of NATO's cyber infrastructure. On April 14th, the U.S. commenced their annual command and control exercises. These simulate a full-scale war between Russia and the United States. In holding this exercise, the U.S. ran the risk of the Russians interpreting this as an actual preparation for a real-world nuclear preemptive strike. On the same day, Russia's highest-ranking military commander, Sergei Shoigu, did a surprise inspection of the Pacific Fleet, putting them on high alert and conducting intercontinental ballistic missile tests. Throughout this week, some Pentagon leaks have claimed that a Ukrainian offensive is imminent, and that U.S. troops may in fact be operating in Ukraine in some capacity. As was previously indicated by the U.S. administration, these troops are only there to audit the allocations of weapons deliveries, but these leaks interpreted as the U.S. actively supporting and directing Ukrainian troops by the Russians. Ukrainian drone strikes on Russian critical infrastructure continue as acts of sabotage on critical infrastructure ramp up. Only a year ago, these types of attacks on Russia were thought to surely lead to imminent nuclear escalation. Now they appear to be commonplace and normalized, which only heightens the risk of nuclear escalation. Throughout the Russo-Ukraine conflict, tension between the United States and China has also reached unprecedented levels. And in just the past week, North Korea has went silent on deconfliction communication channels. The Korean peninsula now teeters on the brink of war. Wars are also breaking out in Africa, and the tension in the Middle East is reaching a fever pitch. At the time of making this video, the crescendo of this conflict appears to be reaching its apex, and what happens next may dictate the fate of humanity. Both Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky made visits to their troops on the front line on April 17th. On April 19th, British intelligence reports that a Russian vessel was spotted surveying underwater sea cables, possibly in order to sabotage the UK's energy supply and telecommunications infrastructure. On the same day, for the first time ever, a US-made drone was fired into Russia by Ukrainian forces. And finally, on April 21st, the NATO Secretary Jens Stoltenberg agreed that Ukraine will be able to join NATO, but only after the defeat of the Russians. The problem is, the Kremlin has said that it will never allow Ukraine to be a member of NATO and will never relinquish territory it's annexed without a major expansion of the conflict. Russia's nuclear doctrine allows for the use of nuclear weapons only when it perceives something to be an existential threat. Ukraine in NATO will be perceived as that existential threat and most certainly will lead to an intensification of the conflict. Russia is currently bracing for the long-anticipated Ukrainian counteroffensive along their 800-kilometer line of defenses. This video was made to illustrate just how much the world has changed in the span of a year, from a seemingly innocuous satellite shootdown to a divided world on the brink of thermonuclear war. This threat should not be underestimated and is showing no signs of slowing down. The time for preparation is nigh.
The UN Security Council had a meeting yesterday, and Ray McGovern spoke to it. He is a former member of the CIA, and he testified in support of Seymour Hersh's article on the United States bombing Nord Stream pipeline. If it is proven that the United States bombed the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, as has been asserted by Seymour Hersh and his article, will you call for the United States to acknowledge and admit that that was an act of war against Germany and Russia? And I'm asking this because this may be the only way to prevent the rest of us from being killed in a thermonuclear war. And I don't want to be fried. Don't you think the media should be reporting on whether or not this is true? And don't you think you should be inquiring into whether or not this is true?
Well, thank you for the question. One, I've got no information to suggest that the United States was involved in bombing the Nord Stream pipeline.
Because you weren't briefed on it.
Sir, you got your chance to ask a question.
So you have an opportunity to respond.
You weren't given information because he explicitly says you weren't briefed on it. Shouldn't you inquire?
So here's what I'll say about, I think, President Biden's leadership generally as it relates to the Ukraine and Russia.
We committed an act of war. What are you doing to respond to that? We have to hold Biden accountable. Listen, you're from Brooklyn, right? You know when to call bullshit when you see it. So do I. This is bullshit right now. And I see what's happening right now. That does not silence me. You can hear me right now. I want you to say something about the bombing, because we're all going to die from a nuclear war right now unless you stop it and you at least put and inquire into whether or not it's true. This war in Ukraine is going to leave us all dead. So what are you going to do? Because you need to inquire. I'm a New Yorker too.
Here's what I'll say.
Say it.
We're going to continue to stand with the Ukrainian people.
That's fucking bullshit. Do not do that. You will end us all dead.
In this war against Vladimir Putin.
Peace. We need talks.
Because
why are you sabotaging talks? Do not put your hands on me. We need peace talks. I am not going to take this. We need peace talks. You are leaving, listen,
democracy,
did you even read the allegations?
It's a battle between
how about accountability, not airheadedness?
It's a battle between
tyranny and freedom
and democracy,
how about conversations, not cremation, diplomacy, not destruction? How about that? How about it? You goddamn airhead, you're going to kill us all. I don't want to die in a goddamn nuclear war, and nobody does!
Shalom, Kahala Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahshai, Ba'Shem Kopardash, double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of the great millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect, who the house of David reborn again in this generation. And Shalom to the 130 Yasharallah, who today are known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, who before losing our true heritage are known as, and still are, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about the two videos we just watched. But let's read this first. This is Revelations 11 and 14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. And as it tells you in this scripture, and what those two videos were about is the road to World War III, which the whole world is on, right? And the first video just showed you, starting in March, which is basically, what is it? That's 2 months ago, okay? So all that took place in the last 2 months, right? And there was things that took place even before that. But again, I just wanted to show you how much happened in the last 2 months. So much so that you have citizen journalists, like in the second clip that I just put on, I think his name is like Jose Vega. This guy, he's gone to multiple mainstream media events to confront the so-called mainstream journalists who are not doing their job, right? Because face it, people. The mainstream media no longer is news, right? America no longer provides any news on mainstream media. It's all, for the most part, propaganda, right? Like the famous adage has always been said, the revolution will not be televised, and that's what's happening, right? The war that's coming, that's bringing on these different revolutions all around the world, the different riots, the people standing up to their figureheads. It is not being televised, along with all these other things, war, the economy, all these things. They give you a little bit of it, but they never really give you the whole truth. They give you narrated and curated samples of the truth. And why is that? Well, because they have a vested interest in the population not knowing what's going on, because they are going to usher in the destruction and depopulation of the world and the foundation of their new world order all in one go, right? And World War III is a big major part of it. This is Matthew 24 and 37. Well, actually, let's start with 36. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came, and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Then shall two be in the field, and one shall be taken, and the other left. And this right here, like I said, is what's going to be the state of the vast majority of the world, right? They're not going to be informed of what's happening, right? Because just as in the second video where you've seen those airheads, they're clapping, right? When real truths were being shouted about how the consequences of this guy not basically making an inquisition of what America has done, because one, he's sold out or he's been bought out, right? And what these people were doing, we're just clapping, right? Clapping to continue on the current path that America is on. And what is that path? The path to war, but as on a vast disinformation campaign, right? Because see, the majority of the world right now doesn't understand really what's going on. Well, actually, I should say the majority of the Western world, the part of the earth that is controlled directly under the control of Esau, Edom, right? The Caucasian race, okay? And why is that? Well, because again, their power is through secrecy. And right now, they're making a big change, like I said, to bring forward their New World Order, right? So when people in this world, when all these things take off, right? World War III, and then the eventual second coming of the Messiah, they're going to be in utter astonishment and shock. And why is that? Well, because they are not paying attention. Because one, they're not being told by their leaders who they trust, and second, they just have no interest in it because they're too busy worrying about the transsexuals that are on beer cans, or the trans sexuals who are trying to manipulate kids, and all these other things going on in the world, which are all distractionary measures. Now, yes, a lot of these things do matter, but as us Akim, the Latinos, Negroes, and the Native Americans, the Israelites, really we have nothing to do with this for the most part. Yes, it's affecting people within our nation, but as us Israelites, the awoken, right, and Lord willing, the 1/3, we should have nothing to do with this. We have no dog in that race. Okay, what we need to do is focus on this truth, focus getting correct, and focus getting right with the Lord. Because again, as you've seen in these videos, we're at that moment. We're in this time where World War III is about to break out, right? And on May 11th, the U.S. through the Biden administration officially announced the end of pretty much the COVID restrictions, also including you can now travel without the jab, and what that means is that for the most part means is that they're going to move on to the next stage, which is going to be the next pandemic, which ultimately is going to usher in the MOTB. Okay, and then after that, it's going to be World War III, right? Like I told you here in these videos. Okay, so again, I said all that to say this: it's our job, Akim, to stay focused. Don't worry about all these distractions. Yes, you could, watch them and know what's going on, but don't get roused up by them. Don't go, like I've said it, like me and the apostles and all the other brothers, don't go and get involved in these marches or these, social movements, which are really just a way to distract you. Distract you from what? The truth. This, right? The path, right? Let's read this. This is 1 Thessalonians 5:5. Ye are all the children of light and the children of the day. We are not of the night nor of darkness. Okay? And you see what this refers to is saying how us Israelites, the 1/3, right, the awakening, we have now been quickened, right, enlightened, right, woken up, right, and we are now the children of light. Because why? Because we have the true light that which the Lord sent into the earth, that being the true knowledge of what the Bible is actually talking about. And this makes us very special, right? This makes us aware of what's actually going on in the world. We now understand the true narrative of the world, okay? And with that being said, it's not for us now to go and worry about worldly matters and all these different distractions, what movies, are woke, or, what movie stars are wearing what to the, Met Gala, or, what songs are being released, or what album is being dropped. That, it's unimportant, okay? Because why? Because that is darkness, right? Because again, it tells you that this world is plunged into gross darkness, okay? And we're not the children of the night, okay? The people of this world are the children of the night, the people who are in utter darkness and don't know what's going on. This is Romans 8:5. For they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh, but they that are after the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. So you see, Akim, we're not to, like I said, you could pay attention to all these other things, so that way, you could glean from them, whatever you may need to, so that way you're up to date on topics, right? Or, just to keep an ear to the ground, so that way you can see if it has anything to do with the truth. But for the most part, don't focus or get caught up in all these different worldly distractions, right? Have your main focus be on these scriptures and on you getting right. What does that mean? That means, working and studying to get these scriptures into your mind, right? To get them, to memorize these scriptures, memorize the word of the Lord. Get down the practicing and observing of the Sabbath day. Finding out when it actually falls, understanding the Hebrew lunar calendar, which the apostles always declare every Hebrew month, right? When the new moon comes, understanding, how to speak Hebrew, right? You don't have to, but you should, because again, the Bible is more than just a book in English. It's a book written in Hebrew and Greek. So again, you got to go into these subjects so that way you could understand it better, right? And this is again how you could prove to the Lord that you're really about this truth, right? Is that you study and get into this truth. You make it part of you, okay? So focus on this truth, Akim. Avoid the distractions, and because we're in that time, Akim. You've seen these videos, and I can't make it any more clear. This is Colossians 3:2. Set your affection on things above and not on things on the earth. So we're about to go into some very dark times, Akim, right? So that being said, hopefully you've prepared what you've needed to prepare, or you're somewhat there. If not, get what you think you're going to need to go through this shit hits the fan sort of situation, right? Make sure that you're in a good place, right? Make sure, like the apostles have said, get what you need, but don't worry too much about it, because again, if you're part of the elect, the Lord's going to watch over you. But that being said, you also got to do your due diligence, okay? Now, ultimately, we gotta worry about making it, about being part of the elect. Lord willing, that's us, right? And by watching these videos, by doing the work, by studying the scriptures, by living the words of the Lord, you can help to make that come to fruition. Okay, so hopefully this video was edifying. Until next time, I want to give all honor and glory and praises to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rakal Kodash. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect. Shalom.